DNA is the instruction manual for how to build life. From animals to plants to humans, it defines us all. Information is stored in DNA using 4 types of molecules, which come in pairs. We have billions of these pairs.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA is shaped like a ladder that's been twisted. A stretch of the DNA is called a gene. Your body reads the genes and the letters like a recipe and builds protein. The order of the bases in the DNA, along with the length and sequence of the gene, determines the size and shape of the protein it builds. The size and shape of the protein determine the function it will have in your body. Proteins make up cells, cells make up tissue, and tissue makes up organs, like your eyes and your skin. So the genes determine what you are, a cow, an apple, or a human, and what you will look like, the color of your hair, your skin, your eyes, and so on.
Share 98% of our DNA with bonobos and chimpanzees. We don't quite look alike because that 2% equals thousands and thousands of different genes. And while all humans share over 99% of our DNA with each other, what we don't share is what makes us unique in our own way.
If simple water molecules that form ice crystals exhibit magnificent structure, consider the design ingenuity behind large, complex molecules, such as DNA. DNA contains the blueprint for all life and is by far the densest information storage mechanism known in the universe. For example, the amount of information contained in a pinhead volume of DNA would fill a stack of books 500 times higher than from here to the moon. The program code and design of such an incredible system indicates a supremely intelligent designer.
DNA that makes up our genes actually is like books of information that's read by a language system. It's absolutely phenomenal. And scientists know today that languages, a code, only come from an intelligence, and information only comes from information. Nobody's ever seen matter by itself give rise to a code. Nobody's ever seen matter by itself give rise to information.
The evidence is overwhelming that there is an intentionality and a design that underlies our existence. So as a scientist, my thinking was, if that's true, who or whatever put us here on Earth would have left something inside of every one of us that tells us we're part of a greater existence and tells us that we're a family and that we're not so different from one another. As a scientist, that I had the opportunity to see the human genome, a piece of human DNA coded on my computer screen. There's a code. There's a language. That DNA is a language. And whatever that language is, it's inside of me and it's inside of everyone that looks at it. And some intelligent being placed it there a long time ago. What we discovered is every single ancient language, the letters of the language link to very precise numbers that have never changed. So whether we're talking about the Arabic language or the Hebrew language, or if we're talking about cuneiform and Sanskrit, what are called the ancient core or the ancient root languages, there's a mysterious number that's always been linked to those letters, and nobody knows where the numbers came from. That was interesting to me. So through a process that took many years, I came to understand that the numbers that represent the letter are also the numbers that represent the elements, what we call the elements on the periodic table of life and a physical reality as we know it. So in other words, it is if the ancients, they didn't know about the periodic table of elements the way we do today, but they knew about the numbers that were represented. And when we make the connections between the letters of the ancient alphabets, the numbers they represent, those numbers, if we look at them on the periodic table, they happen to be precisely the elements that make the DNA in our bodies. Now we have the ability to take the sequences of DNA in a cell and through those numbers link them to letters in ancient alphabets. And lo and behold, the letters spell words and the words have meaning. And this has led to a book that's entitled The God Code. It was released in the year 2004. What we know is that there is a message, an intentional message within the DNA of all life. The message occurs in layers, and each layer has its own code that must be understood for that layer. And I'm still working on the deeper. The top layer is one that we understand very well right now. The top layer in the DNA of all life literally translates into the words God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. We don't know who put that message there. We don't know exactly why it's there. But I can tell you that all I did was I followed the instructions in a series of ancient texts, following those languages, and I married that with the science of today, and this is what we found. If a higher intelligence is responsible for our existence, and that intelligence created us, it makes perfect sense that that intelligence would have left something for us to understand who we are. And if they left it in a temple or a text that could be destroyed and disappear over time, it wouldn't make sense. It makes perfect sense that that higher intelligence would have left the message encoded into the creation itself. And as long as the creation exists, the message is in.
National Geographic will lead us on a journey to identify the scientific atom and reveal what made him so exceptional that he could father all men on Earth. But how do you unravel a chain so many generations long? A chain that leads all the way to the roots of humanity's family tree. Most of our DNA is a jumble from all our ancestors. It's what makes each of us unique. These days, we use DNA to test whether a man is the biological father of a child. Could it really link the billions of men alive today back to one ancestor? Wells believes the answer is yes. That the Y chromosome can trace the origins of men from all over the world. From Africa to America, all the branches on the tree join up in one trunk. The Y chromosome links men today back to their common ancestors. The key is to reveal super ancestors. Men who left their genetic imprint on huge numbers. They're like branching points, where vast sections of the tree come together in a single man. Geneticists can trace them further and further back down the tree to the ultimate super ancestor, scientific Adam.
من أي شيء خلقه من نطفة خلقه فقدره ثم السبيل يسره.
The word قدره, translated as proportioned in the mentioning verse, comes from the Arabic verb قدر. It translates as arranging, setting out, planning, programming, or the writing of everything in destiny by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's truly amazing that the Quran pointed to the concept of genetic planning in an age when the mankind's knowledge was very limited. This remarkable fact again proves that the Quran is the word of Almighty Creator. The amount of information contained in a DNA, thousands of different processes taking place in the cell and the body, and indeed the control of the whole system are recorded in the DNA. The scientists have provided different theories to describe the amount of information contained in a DNA. To know the amount of the recorded information,
you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some sort of designer, and that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
وما